Respond to emotional pain with noise, raised voices, pleading words, or frantic explanations. The Sigma male, however, is wired differently. His silence is not weakness. It is a deliberate calculation. When a woman wounds him, whether through betrayal, disrespect, or manipulation, he does not bleed out for the world to see. Instead, he leaves quietly, often without a trace, like a shadow retreating from the light. This detachment is not born from coldness, but from mastery of self-control. In a society that equates loud reactions with authenticity, the Sigma male plays an entirely different game. He rejects the social theater that demands drama to validate pain. While others perform their heartbreak for sympathy or closure, he becomes the observer, absorbing, processing, and choosing his next step with surgical precision. Psychologists note that this level of emotional restraint often stems from high self-awareness and an internal locus of control. The belief that one's life is shaped by inner discipline rather than external chaos. When hurt, the Sigma enters a strategic pause. It's the kind of stillness that unsettles people because it's not passive, it's loaded. It is the calm before a permanent withdrawal, the quiet of a man who understands that the truest form of power is in control, not display. Unlike the average man who might need validation or reconciliation, the Sigma needs neither. His decisions are final, made in silence with the same precision as a sniper's trigger pull. He recalibrates his life without fanfare, often erasing the offending person from his world entirely. To outsiders, it may look like he vanished. To him, it is simply moving on without leaving emotional fingerprints. This response is rooted in his worldview, one where dignity outweighs revenge, where emotional independence shields him from manipulation, and where his presence is a privilege, never a guarantee. In the Sigma's world, when trust is broken, the story doesn't end with an argument, it ends with absence. And that absence, more than any words, delivers the message. Number one, he withdraws without warning. There's no farewell speech, no explanation. The Sigma removes himself from her world like a shadow fading at dawn. And this is not just a matter of personality, it's a strategy rooted in self-preservation and psychological strength. In human social dynamics, particularly in relationships, the one who controls the narrative often holds the emotional upper hand. By leaving without drama or prolonged confrontation, the Sigma refuses to hand over the script of his life for someone else to edit. Psychologists call this withdrawing reinforcement, where removing your presence and energy from someone who mistreats you disrupts their ability to continue influencing you emotionally. The Sigma understands that in the aftermath of hurt, words often complicate rather than clarify, and emotional outbursts can be weaponized against you. So he opts for silence, not as a passive act, but as a decisive move to preserve dignity. This approach also taps into a deeper behavioral truth. Absence creates a psychological vacuum. Studies on attachment theory suggest that sudden withdrawal can trigger a re-evaluation in the mind of the other person, sometimes leading them to confront their own behavior more effectively than any argument would. But the Sigma isn't doing this to spark regret in her. His aim is self-liberation. Like a soldier retreating from a lost battlefield to preserve his strength for the next mission, he conserves his emotional resources for people and pursuits that matter. By disappearing quietly, he robs her of the satisfaction of seeing him wounded or desperate. It's a move that aligns with the predator's mindset in nature. When an animal is injured, it retreats into the shadows to heal, avoiding predators that prey on weakness. In the modern social jungle, emotional predators are just as real, and the Sigma refuses to give them a feeding ground. This detachment is not cold-heartedness. It is emotional intelligence in action, a refusal to let temporary pain become a permanent prison. While others may linger in toxic cycles, hoping for closure or vindication, the Sigma writes his own closure by simply walking away and never looking back. In doing so, he transforms the end of one chapter into the unshackled beginning of another, proving that sometimes the loudest statement you can make is complete, unshakable silence. Number two, he processes in solitude. Pain is a private thing, and for a man with a Sigma mindset, it's something he processes behind closed doors, away from the noise and unsolicited advice of the world. When he's hurt, he doesn't rush to social media for sympathy or gather a crowd to validate his feelings. Instead, he retreats into solitude, not to wallow, but to think with surgical precision. His time alone is not about replaying the wound on a loop like a sad movie. It's about dissecting the moment with the objectivity of a scientist studying an anomaly. Psychology calls this cognitive appraisal, a process where we break down events to understand their cause, meaning, and personal impact. The Sigma male uses this mental tool to pinpoint where the breach occurred. Was it a misjudgment of character, a failure to set boundaries, or simply an unavoidable clash of human flaws? He's not afraid to be brutally honest with himself because self-deception would only plant seeds for the same pain to grow again. And here's where the quiet brilliance of his approach shines. He searches for the lesson beneath the hurt. This is more than cliché self-help. It's a survival mechanism rooted in emotional intelligence, which research shows is a key factor in resilience and long-term success. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" he reframes it to, "What is this trying to teach me?" It could be a reminder to trust his instincts more, to slow down before giving trust, or to recognize when someone's words and actions don't align. By internalizing the lesson, he transforms pain from a parasite into a teacher, ensuring it leaves behind wisdom instead of scars. In this way, the Sigma male treats emotional wounds the same way a master craftsman handles broken tools. He studies the damage, repairs what's fixable, and learns how to prevent the same break again. And when he emerges from that period of quiet analysis, it's with a deeper sense of clarity and a sharper instinct for the road ahead. His silence during pain is not weakness. It's a strategic recalibration, the kind that ensures when he walks back into the world, he does so stronger, smarter, and more immune to making the same mistake twice. Number 3, he strips away emotional attachment. The moment trust is broken, the Sigma cuts the emotional cord. He doesn't cling to what could have been. He accepts reality for what it is. That choice is less an act of spite and more an exercise in emotional triage. When a relationship's foundation cracks, the Sigma assesses the structural damage quickly, removes himself from the immediate hazard, and redirects his energy toward repair and growth rather than rumination. This behavior is grounded in recognizable psychological principles: emotional regulation, boundary setting, and a low tolerance for toxic patterns. And it gets results because it prevents prolonged exposure to stressors that erode well-being. Cutting the cord doesn't mean obliterating memory or pretending nothing happened. It means changing who gets priority access to your inner life. Imagine your emotional life as a finely tuned instrument. If a string snaps, a craftsman either replaces it or retunes the instrument so it still produces music. But he doesn't sit and stroke the broken string hoping it will heal itself. Practically, a Sigma will name the boundary, "I won't tolerate deceit," state a consequence calmly, and follow through, which aligns with research showing that consistent boundaries reduce anxiety and foster healthier interactions over time. There's a social intelligence to this too. The Sigma anticipates relational contagion, the way one person's instability can spread and affect performance, creativity, and mood in subtle ways. By acting decisively, he preserves his capacity for work, thought, and connection with people who demonstrate reliability. It's also worth noting the neurochemical angle. Trust builds through repeated, predictable behavior and is reinforced by neurochemicals like oxytocin. When consistency stops, those biochemical rewards decline and the brain naturally withdraws. The Sigma listens to that withdrawal instead of trying to forcibly recreate feelings that are gone. Entertainingly, this doesn't make him unbeatable or unbreakable. He still feels disappointment and grief, but his method is efficient and dignified, like a high-level chess player sacrificing a piece to avoid a checkmate later. The lesson for anyone watching is useful. Cutting an emotional cord can be a skill, not a failure. Practice naming the breach, stating your limit, and reallocating your attention to people and projects that repay trust. Over time, you'll find that doing so increases resilience, sharpens discernment, and leaves room for relationships that are actually worth keeping. Number 4, he redirects energy into self-improvement. Every hurt becomes fuel for the Sigma male, but not in the bitter, vengeful sense most people imagine. He understands a timeless truth backed by psychology. Pain, when redirected, can become a catalyst for extraordinary transformation. Studies in neuroplasticity show that the human brain rewires itself in response to new experiences and challenges, and emotional pain, when met with intention, can spark profound personal growth. Instead of wasting time chasing what's broken or begging for what's gone, he diverts all that emotional energy into building himself up. He starts honing skills that expand his value in the marketplace, cultivating the discipline to follow through on commitments, and strengthening his body through consistent training and nutrition. In doing so, he engages in a process not unlike the forging of steel. High heat and intense pressure turn him into something far stronger than before. History offers countless parallels. Great leaders, inventors, and athletes have often emerged from moments of personal loss or rejection, channeling that sting into relentless pursuit of mastery. The Sigma male treats his setbacks as tuition for the school of life, knowing that while he can't always control what happens, he can absolutely control how he responds. Financially, he might redirect what he once spent on distractions into investments, savings, or ventures that bring him closer to independence. Emotionally, he builds a fortress of self-reliance, not to shut the world out, but to ensure his happiness no longer depends on someone else's validation. In fitness and health, he understands that strength isn't just about looking good, it's about having the stamina, resilience, and mental clarity to handle whatever life throws at him. Every wound becomes a reminder not of weakness, but of the capacity to adapt and thrive. Over time, the people who doubted him begin to see the transformation, but by then, their opinions no longer matter. He's already on a higher plane, operating with a sharper mind, a stronger body, and a more unshakable spirit. He has turned the wound into a weapon, not to attack others, but to carve out a future so solid that nothing fragile or fleeting can topple it again. That is the silent power of the Sigma male. He doesn't just survive the hurt, he alchemizes it into unstoppable momentum. Number 5, he maintains absolute composure. No matter what she says or does afterwards, she will never see him lose control. Silence becomes his armor. For the Sigma male, this isn't about being cold or unfeeling, it's about discipline. Psychologists often note that people who master emotional regulation gain an edge in both personal and professional relationships. This is because in moments of conflict, the human brain's amygdala is wired to react impulsively, flooding the body with adrenaline and cortisol, which can cloud judgment. The Sigma male refuses to let biology dictate his dignity. Instead of responding with raised voices or emotional outbursts, he draws upon the ancient principle of Stoicism, a philosophy embraced by great thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, who believed that the key to power lies in mastering oneself. His silence is not passive, it is an active strategy. It denies the other person the satisfaction of provoking him, while giving him time to process, think, and choose the most effective response. In modern behavioral science, this is called a tactical pause, a moment deliberately taken to regain clarity before action. By saying nothing, he controls the tempo of the interaction, forcing the other person to wrestle with their own words in the echo chamber of his stillness. This kind of control also shifts the power dynamic. The one who reacts least is often perceived as the one in charge. It's not that he lacks the words, he simply refuses to waste them in a moment when they would lose their value. His silence communicates volumes, that he is unshaken, self-reliant, and immune to manipulation. In fact, research shows that silence in tense exchanges can disarm aggressors more effectively than confrontation because it removes the emotional fuel they're trying to ignite. Over time, this becomes a reputation. People know he cannot be baited, bought, or broken by provocation. And in a world that thrives on instant reactions, the Sigma male's refusal to be rushed makes him an anomaly. He becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability is a form of quiet power. This doesn't mean he avoids all confrontation. When it's time to speak, his words cut with surgical precision because they are rare, considered, and impossible to ignore. Until then, his silence stands as an invisible shield, a statement of strength without ever having to raise his voice. In that stillness, he not only preserves his own peace, but also commands the kind of respect that no argument could ever win. Number 6, he removes access completely, blocked, deleted, erased. For a Sigma male, these aren't just dramatic reactions, they're decisive, calculated moves. He sees access to him not as an open-door policy, but as a carefully granted privilege, something earned over time and guarded with quiet intensity. When someone abuses that privilege, whether through betrayal, manipulation, or consistent disrespect, he doesn't rage, negotiate, or plead for understanding. Instead, he makes a final, often silent decision to remove that person from his life completely. This isn't impulsive. Psychology calls it emotional detachment, a protective mechanism that shields his mental well-being and preserves his energy for those who truly value it. Studies in behavioral psychology suggest that people with strong self-respect and clear personal boundaries are less likely to tolerate repeated toxic behavior. The Sigma male embodies this principle almost instinctively. In his world, burning bridges isn't about bitterness, it's about preserving peace. Once the door closes, there's no secret latch or maybe someday clause, it's locked permanently. To outsiders, this might seem cold or unforgiving, but it's actually a deeply rational approach rooted in the understanding that time is finite and emotional resources are limited. Allowing someone back in after repeated harm is to him like leaving a vault open after a robbery. It's an invitation for history to repeat itself. His value system runs on reciprocity, loyalty for loyalty, respect for respect. Violate that, and you've essentially terminated your membership in his life without the possibility of renewal. He doesn't send long messages explaining why. In fact, he often leaves without much explanation at all, trusting that the consequences of the other person's actions are self-evident. Sociologists note that this boundary enforcement is a sign of high self-efficacy, the belief that one can control their environment by choosing who gets to influence it. For the Sigma, it's not about revenge, it's about reclaiming control over his life's emotional landscape. And because his circle is already small, losing a spot in it is not just a minor inconvenience. It's the equivalent of being written out of a rare, exclusive book where the author doesn't do reprints. Once your chapter ends, it ends permanently. And if you ever find yourself wondering why you can't get back in, the truth is simple. You didn't just lose him, you lost access to a world you may never encounter again. I can also give you an even sharper, more cinematic version of this, so it reads like a movie scene rather than just a paragraph. That would make it even more gripping. Number 7. He learns her patterns. A Sigma male's response to betrayal isn't driven by revenge, it's driven by evolution. When someone wrongs him, he doesn't waste time plotting payback. Instead, he treats the experience like a data-gathering mission. He studies the situation, dissects the person's behavior, and locks every detail into memory like a mental case file. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Psychologists call it schema development, where the brain creates mental templates to spot danger faster next time. A Sigma uses this to sharpen his instincts, making it almost impossible for the same manipulation to work twice. While others might get caught in emotional whirlwinds, he steps back, observes, and asks, "What did I miss before this happened?" This reflective mindset is why Sigmas often seem like human lie detectors. They're not magically gifted, they're just relentlessly analytical. Over time, these lessons form an invisible radar, warning him of subtle shifts in tone, body language, or intentions that most people overlook. For him, every betrayal becomes a free masterclass in human behavior. The irony, those who try to exploit him end up becoming unwilling teachers, because once a Sigma learns the lesson, the door to his trust locks permanently, and he never needs to open it again. Number 8, he repositions his social circle. If she was part of a larger network, friends, colleagues, social circles, the Sigma male won't storm in making accusations or burning bridges. Instead, he'll approach the situation like a skilled chess player who sees 3 moves ahead. Social dynamics are delicate ecosystems, and research in social psychology shows that conflicts within interconnected groups often ripple outward, affecting reputations and future opportunities. The Sigma understands this well, so he quietly recalibrates his relationships. He may reduce his presence in shared events, subtly shift his alliances, or engage with mutual contacts in a more measured way, all without broadcasting his intentions. This isn't avoidance out of fear, it's strategy born from emotional intelligence. By removing himself from potential drama, he preserves his energy for pursuits that matter and keeps his image untarnished. History offers countless examples of influential figures who thrived by choosing discretion over public confrontation, knowing when silence speaks louder than words. The Sigma male embodies that same principle. moving on without leaving emotional or social wreckage behind. In doing so, he not only safeguards his peace, but also strengthens his long-term position in any network, proving that true power lies in control, not chaos. Every loss to a Sigma male is not a wound, but a workshop. He views himself as the sculptor and life as the raw marble, with every betrayal serving as the chisel that removes excess stone to reveal a more defined, resilient self. Psychology backs this up. Post-traumatic growth is a real phenomenon where individuals become stronger after adversity. When a woman hurts him, she unknowingly fuels his evolution, sharpening his emotional intelligence, refining his strategies, and deepening his spiritual resilience. This process makes him more self-reliant and less accessible to those who don't value his worth. He understands a timeless truth. The world won't change. Betrayal, deception, and manipulation will always exist. Yet his power lies in mastering his response. The man who can walk away without bitterness isn't just surviving, he's winning. In a society obsessed with reaction, his greatest weapon is being unreadable, unshaken, and unforgettable. When most men feel threatened, they react, loudly, impulsively, and often emotionally. But when a Sigma male feels threatened, something different happens. He doesn't explode. He doesn't rush to defend his ego or prove his strength. Instead, he calculates. Like a grandmaster in a psychological chess match, the Sigma doesn't panic. He plans. His silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. Rather than meeting aggression with aggression, he retreats, not out of fear, but out of foresight. He observes the terrain, the players, and the motives. While others are caught in the moment, he's already 20 moves ahead, mapping out outcomes with surgical precision. This is not the story of a man who shouts to be heard. This is the story of a man who listens to understand. Sigma males are rooted in logic and independence. Their brain chemistry is often wired to favor introspective thinking, meaning their prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for planning, problem-solving, and emotional regulation, is highly active. In moments of confrontation, while others react from the amygdala, the fight or flight center, the Sigma taps into higher reasoning. He doesn't fear conflict, he studies it. He knows that energy spent proving oneself to doubters is energy wasted. Instead, he lets results speak, and when it gets personal, when betrayal, disrespect, or danger looms, he doesn't escalate. He evolves. He upgrades his mindset, trims unnecessary alliances, and adapts his strategy. It's why Sigmas are often underestimated. Their power doesn't announce itself, it unfolds quietly, methodically. While the world looks for dominance in volume and visibility, the Sigma's dominance lies in discipline and detachment. This isn't content for the average man. This is for the one who never bowed to social pressure, never sought validation, and never needed a crowd to move in power. It's for the strategist behind the silence, the man who, when backed into a corner, doesn't break, he builds. Welcome to Brain Boosters, where we study not how to be seen, but how to become unstoppable. Let's begin. Number 1, controlled disengagement. When the world tightens its grip, most men push back. They fight harder, speak louder, and try to control everything around them. But the Sigma male operates by a different code. He doesn't meet pressure with pressure. He dissolves the grip by loosening his own. This isn't weakness, it's what psychologists call a form of boundary setting that prioritizes mental sovereignty over social validation. The Sigma doesn't argue, doesn't beg, and doesn't explain. He simply withdraws. It's not a dramatic exit, it's a silent shift of energy. One moment he's there, the next he's not, and those who took him for granted are left in the echo of his absence. This form of controlled disengagement is rooted in deep emotional intelligence. Rather than letting toxicity infect his inner world, the Sigma male recognizes when a space, person, or situation is compromising his peace, and instead of fighting to change the environment, he changes within it. Science backs this up. Studies in neuropsychology show that emotional detachment, when done intentionally, can lower cortisol levels and preserve long-term cognitive function. In other words, detachment isn't escapism, it's protection. This quiet form of recalibration allows the Sigma to preserve his clarity and autonomy. He doesn't ghost out of immaturity, he leaves because he's already extracted the lesson. His silence isn't passive, it's powerful. In a world addicted to reaction, the Sigma chooses stillness. When chaos demands a response, he offers none. When drama seeks attention, he becomes invisible. This is the essence of his resistance, non-availability. Because once the sigma pulls his energy back, the dynamic collapses. No more fuel for manipulation, no more participation in dysfunction. He understands that the most potent way to fight a toxic system is not to destroy it, but to starve it of attention. That's why the sigma male doesn't yell or protest. And in that void, those who underestimated his presence begin to understand its true value. Number 2, mental reprogramming. Where others crumble under emotional weight, the sigma rewrites his internal script. While the average person may relive emotional trauma on a loop, carrying resentment, repeating toxic cycles, and allowing pain to define them, the sigma male takes a radically different approach. He doesn't simply endure pain, he dissects it. Like a seasoned coder debugging a complex system, he studies the source of his suffering with brutal honesty and laser focus. Instead of reacting emotionally, he analyzes patterns and behaviors, recognizing that emotional triggers are not enemies to be buried, but data points to be decoded. In neuroscience, this approach mirrors cognitive reappraisal, a psychological strategy shown to reduce negative emotional responses by reframing the meaning of a situation. The sigma does this instinctively. He doesn't seek to be louder or more dominant in response to threats or failure. He becomes cleaner, more refined, like software that's been updated to remove bugs and optimize performance. His evolution is internal, quiet, and efficient. He doesn't let trauma mutate into bitterness. He doesn't suppress his emotions, but studies them until they lose their control over him. As a result, what breaks others only builds him. Stress and chaos become part of his calibration process. This is not emotional coldness, it's emotional intelligence at its highest level. He understands that real power lies not in pretending not to feel, but in refusing to be ruled by feeling. In a society that prizes instant reactions and loud personalities, the sigma male's silent mastery stands out. He doesn't need validation, applause, or understanding. His transformation happens behind closed doors, in quiet moments of self-reflection and calculated reconstruction. While others are shaped by external pressure, the sigma is sharpened by it. Threats don't mold him, they force him to upgrade. Like steel forged in fire, he emerges more resilient, more precise, and far more dangerous. Not because he retaliates, but because he refines. His software is updated not through drama, but through discipline. Pain doesn't imprison him. It programs him with new clarity. This is the sigma's true edge, not brute strength, but emotional strategy. Not louder, just cleaner. Number 3, strategic silence. In the sigma male's world, silence is never a sign of weakness. It's a calculated strategy. Unlike the alpha who commands attention or the beta who seeks approval, the sigma retreats into stillness when confronted, threatened, or tested. This is not passivity. It's a tactical shift to what could be called a low-signal, high-awareness mode. When others get loud, emotional, or reactive, the sigma becomes quieter and more deliberate. His silence is not absence, it's analysis. He observes everything, the tone of voice, the hidden intentions, and the unspoken dynamics in the room. Neurologically, this aligns with how highly self-aware individuals activate their prefrontal cortex under pressure, using logic over impulse. In evolutionary psychology, this behavior mirrors lone wolves in the wild. Animals who don't bark when challenged, they assess, calculate, and act only when the odds are in their favor. The sigma male operates much the same way. His silence becomes disarming. It throws off aggressors who expect either resistance or submission. Manipulators find no emotional cues to exploit. Loud personalities are met with a mirror that reflects nothing. It's unsettling, because society is used to noise, arguments, defensiveness, and over-explaining. The sigma offers none of that. What he offers instead is presence, not performance. That presence feels powerful, precisely because it withholds energy. And the world, addicted to validation and reaction, doesn't know how to process that. The sigma male is aware of this psychological advantage and leverages it in both personal and professional settings. Whether in a negotiation or a confrontation, he controls the tempo by controlling his signal output. He slows things down, he waits, he watches. This is not about avoidance, it's about dominance through restraint. In a world where everyone's broadcasting their opinions and emotions 24/7, the Sigma male becomes a mystery, and mystery is power. His silence isn't empty, it's loaded. Behind every quiet glance is a mental blueprint. Behind every pause is an intention. And when he finally does speak, every word lands with precision because it was chosen, not thrown. That's what makes the Sigma male so unnerving to opponents and so fascinating to observers. He doesn't play by volume, he plays by control. And in that game, silence wins. Number 4, redirection, not reaction. He doesn't waste time reacting to attacks. Instead, he redirects his focus, his time, and his energy. While most people live in a constant state of emotional reactivity, jumping from one drama to the next, the Sigma male does something radically different. He doesn't chase after every insult or defend every misunderstanding. He understands a timeless truth that many miss. Attention is currency. Whatever you give your attention to, you empower. So rather than waste time in petty arguments or emotional battles, he withdraws from the noise and realigns with purpose. He doesn't fight distractions, he replaces them with direction. Studies in cognitive psychology reveal that the human brain thrives when engaged in purpose-driven behavior, not chaos. Sigma males intuitively grasp this. While others burn out by reacting to every beep, buzz, and breaking headline, the Sigma preserves his most valuable resource, his mind. He uses it not to react, but to create. In a world where reaction is the default, he stays in creation mode. This doesn't mean he's passive or disconnected, it means he's disciplined. He knows that control isn't about dominating others, it's about mastering yourself. In the art of martial discipline like Aikido, practitioners don't block attacks head-on. They redirect the energy, turning the opponent's force into momentum for their own movement. That's the essence of the Sigma's life philosophy. Calmly, precisely, without noise, he builds, he creates, he lives with intention. Neuroscience even supports this approach. The prefrontal cortex, the brain's decision-making center, is strongest when not hijacked by emotional triggers. The Sigma male operates from that higher level of awareness. While others are slaves to reaction, he is the architect of direction. And that makes him rare. He's not avoiding the world, he's mastering his place in it. Every move is deliberate. Every silence is loaded with strategy. In a society obsessed with speed and noise, his stillness speaks volumes. It's not weakness. It's power under control, because at the end of the day, a man who can't be provoked, distracted, or manipulated is a man who can't be defeated. Number 5, energy stripping. The Sigma male is allergic to wasted energy. Every ounce matters to him. Unlike those who thrive in chaos or need constant social engagement, the Sigma operates with surgical precision. When he senses a threat, be it emotional manipulation, toxic people, or environments that drain rather than nourish, he doesn't react impulsively. He scans it silently, with a calculating mind. Like a tactician surveying a battlefield, he asks pointed questions. Is this situation worth my attention? Is this person worth access to my mental and emotional world? Most aren't. And when the answer is no, he doesn't announce it. He doesn't need drama or theatrics. He simply begins to withdraw, not out of fear, but out of respect for his time, his mind, and his peace. Emotionally, he detaches. Socially, he distances himself. Mentally, he closes the file and moves on. And when he walks away, he takes nothing with him. No guilt, no bitterness, no baggage. That's because energy is his currency, and he spends it like a minimalist investor. Scientifically, our brains consume a vast portion of our body's energy. The Sigma male, whether consciously or instinctively, protects his cognitive bandwidth like a scarce resource. Studies in psychology confirm that high self-monitoring individuals tend to conserve emotional energy by avoiding unnecessary social obligations. The Sigma is an expert at this. He's not cold-hearted, he's clear-headed. While others leak energy through endless arguments, people-pleasing, or overthinking, the Sigma is cutting cords. It's not that he doesn't care, it's that he cares too much to waste. He doesn't let external chaos dictate internal peace. His silence is not weakness, but strategy. His detachment is not apathy, but wisdom. In a world that constantly demands attention, the Sigma's refusal to be drained becomes his ultimate shield. He doesn't fight every battle, he vanishes from the ones that don't deserve him. Energy for the Sigma male is not just about stamina, it's about sovereignty. And in preserving it, he keeps something far more valuable than time: control. Number 6, emotional neutralization. Threats often come through emotional games, guilt, shame, and fear. These aren't just petty tactics, they're deeply rooted in human psychology, often used to manipulate and control. But the Sigma male, a man who exists outside traditional social hierarchies, is built differently. He doesn't fall for the bait. Where most people might react with outrage, panic, or desperate explanations, the Sigma responds with nothing. He neutralizes. His silence isn't submission, it's a calculated absence of energy. When someone tries to guilt him, he doesn't explain himself. When they attempt to shame him, he doesn't defend his identity. When fear is used to corner him, he doesn't retreat. He simply doesn't engage. This emotional discipline isn't accidental. It's the product of introspection, solitude, and self-mastery. In psychology, there's a term called emotional detachment, which, when healthy, allows individuals to maintain boundaries and think clearly under pressure. The Sigma has mastered this. He doesn't match their heat. He cools the room with indifference. This calm, almost eerie stillness is disarming. Imagine arguing with a man who won't raise his voice, won't flinch, and won't give you the satisfaction of emotional feedback. It turns their chaos into a monologue, one that echoes back to them with increasing absurdity. In a society addicted to emotional reaction, where outbursts are rewarded with attention and drama becomes currency, the Sigma male is a psychological blackout. He cuts the power. No emotion, no argument, no energy, just stillness. And in that stillness, manipulators lose their grip. They realize their games don't work here. Their arsenal becomes obsolete. The guilt has nowhere to stick. The shame dissolves in the silence. The fear rebounds like a boomerang. It's not that the Sigma doesn't feel, he simply chooses not to be ruled by feeling. That's his power. In the storm of emotional warfare, he becomes the I, calm, unmoved, untouchable. And while others may burn out in the fire of toxic engagement, the Sigma walks away cold, composed, and completely unaffected. His silence is not emptiness, it's dominance. Number 7, no signal reaction. Most men, whether they realize it or not, leak signals. These signals can be facial expressions, defensive body language, or verbal responses that reveal fear, pride, annoyance, or insecurity. In social dynamics, particularly in power struggles or manipulative environments, these subtle cues give others an emotional roadmap, a way to provoke, manipulate, or gain the upper hand. That's the average man. But the Sigma male operates on a different frequency. When conflict arises or tension fills the air, the Sigma doesn't offer a twitch of the eye, a change in tone, or a reaction to bait. He goes silent, not out of fear, but out of strategy. This is not passivity, but a calculated removal of emotional currency from the game. By giving no signal, no status update, no defensive rebuttal, no exaggerated posturing, he creates a kind of social void that others don't know how to fill. And in a world that thrives on control, that's terrifying. Human psychology is wired to respond to social cues. We read micro-expressions and tone of voice like radar systems scanning for weakness or authority. But when someone gives you nothing, no resistance, no emotion, no visible stance, you're left without a map. It's like trying to control smoke with your bare hands. That's the power of the Sigma. It's not just silence. This disarms threats because manipulation requires emotional traction. If someone's trying to provoke you but you don't react, they lose control. If they try to gauge your position and you give them nothing, they're stuck in the dark. That's unsettling for predators who rely on psychological dominance. They can't dominate what doesn't engage. This behavior is rooted in evolutionary psychology. Signals once meant survival. But in the modern world, over-signaling often leads to exploitation. The Sigma understands this instinctively. So instead of signaling status like an alpha or seeking support like a beta, he removes himself from the emotional chessboard entirely. And when there's no signal, there's nothing to decode, nothing to manipulate, nothing to control. It's the ultimate form of quiet power, a calm storm that refuses to be read and because of that, remains untouchable. Number 8, building in the dark. While others panic in the spotlight, the Sigma disappears into the shadows. But don't mistake his absence for weakness or fear. He's not hiding, he's building. This is the fundamental difference between Sigma males and the rest of the social hierarchy. While alpha males dominate the stage and beta males follow, the Sigma male chooses solitude as his forge. Psychologically, Sigmas are introverted, self-sufficient, and highly introspective individuals. They don't need validation from crowds or approval from authority. They thrive in the quiet, where distractions fade and clarity emerges. In these silent periods, the Sigma male is not idle. He's crafting his next move, mapping his strategy, upgrading his mindset, and sharpening his skills. Science backs this with studies on introverted personalities showing that solitude enhances creativity, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. These are qualities the Sigma male wields like tools. He invests in his future without the need for applause, and this long game often leads to outcomes that shock everyone. When he returns, he doesn't come back loud or boastful. He's just different. Not bitter from the world's chaos, just better. More focused, more capable, more refined. Because when the world throws conflict, distraction, or drama, the Sigma doesn't break. He doesn't react with emotional volatility or rush to prove his point. He retreats, not to escape, but to evolve. Building in silence is his power move. It's the strategy of a man who knows growth doesn't happen on stage. It happens in the shadows, behind closed doors, in the dead of night when no one is watching. And by the time the world catches on, it's already too late. He's already 10 steps ahead. The Sigma's transformation is not flashy, but it is powerful. It's the result of intentional isolation, relentless self-improvement, and a refusal to be distracted by noise. His silence isn't emptiness, it's activity. His absence isn't weakness, it's preparation. And when he emerges, he doesn't need to tell the world he's changed. The results speak for him. In a world obsessed with visibility, the Sigma male proves that real strength doesn't need to shout. It just needs time, discipline, and silence to build something the noise never could. A threat to the Sigma isn't a reason to panic. It's a signal, a whisper, not a shout. It doesn't trigger fear, but rather sparks a quiet transformation. While others might react with loud defiance or visible defense, the Sigma male retreats, not to hide, but to sharpen. This is the nature of a man who lives outside the social hierarchy. He doesn't seek validation or approval. Instead, a threat becomes fuel, an opportunity to analyze, adapt, and strike back with precision. Psychology and behavioral studies show that individuals with high levels of self-awareness and autonomy, like the Sigma archetype, are more likely to respond to challenges with strategic introspection rather than reactive aggression. In moments of tension, the Sigma doesn't seek allies, he seeks clarity. He disappears from the noise and returns with sharpened purpose. This solitude isn't weakness, it's the forge where his next move is crafted. So if you're looking for how a Sigma handles being threatened, don't expect a scene. Expect silence, stillness, the calm before a calculated shift. Something powerful is always being rebuilt in the shadows. Stay curious, be unseen, be unfazed, and above all, be unforgettable. What truly happens when you test the resolve of a man who carved his identity through solitude, hardship, and silent perseverance? You don't just encounter resistance. You face a living embodiment of quiet resilience. A Sigma male isn't the product of praise or popularity. He is forged in fire, through betrayals that shattered illusions, through nights spent in solitude that shaped introspection, and through failures that demanded reinvention. While most seek validation from the crowd, the Sigma seeks clarity in silence. His power lies not in outward bravado, but in inner mastery. He doesn't erupt when tested. Instead, he studies, he adapts, and then he strikes, precise, calculated, and irreversible. Psychologically, this type of man aligns with high levels of emotional intelligence and self-reliance, a trait linked to introverted leadership styles noted in studies from Harvard Business Review. People often confuse his detachment with apathy, but the truth is more dangerous. His stillness is strategic. Cross him and you won't just lose access to his presence. You'll lose someone who saw 10 steps ahead, someone whose loyalty ran deeper than surface-level affection. The Sigma doesn't broadcast his worth, it is felt in his absence. He turns wounds into wisdom, setbacks into fuel, and silence into strategy. Think of Bruce Wayne before the cape, training in shadows, becoming something the world wasn't ready for. That's the Sigma archetype. He doesn't avoid pain, he partners with it, allowing it to sculpt his discipline and deepen his perception. While others are reactive, he is responsive, emotionally controlled, focused, and unrelenting. So when the world sees stillness, he's building momentum. When they assume surrender, he's sharpening his edge. If you relate to this, If you've ever felt like the storm within you is waiting for the right moment, then you're not lost. You're just gathering force. The Sigma path is quiet, but not empty. It's the calm before the reckoning. Are you ready to step into that storm? Then let's begin. Number one, he doesn't react, he removes. Most people in today's social world are addicted to emotional feedback. They test boundaries, provoke reactions, and thrive on drama because to them, any attention, positive or negative, is validation. They poke, prod, and stir emotions just to see if you'll flinch, explode, or beg for peace. But the Sigma male operates on a completely different wavelength. He doesn't engage in emotional tug-of-wars because he's mastered the art of emotional detachment. When crossed, insulted, or manipulated, he doesn't shout or argue. He simply disconnects, silently and deliberately. This disconnection isn't fueled by rage or ego, but by cold, calculated self-respect. His silence isn't passive, it's a strategic move that speaks louder than confrontation ever could. Research in behavioral psychology shows that withholding a response in social situations often unsettles others more than any reaction. That's because the human brain is wired to seek patterns and closure. And when a Sigma removes himself without warning or explanation, it creates a cognitive vacuum. People who once had access to him begin to feel that emptiness, and it echoes. There's no dramatic exit, no emotional explosion, just absence. And in that absence, the Sigma's value is felt. His presence, once taken for granted, becomes hauntingly loud in its disappearance. The void he leaves behind isn't just personal, it's psychological. Unlike most who crave closure, the Sigma understands that walking away without a word can deliver the strongest message of all. This is not ghosting out of immaturity, but detaching out of mastery. He chooses his peace over pointless battles. He understands that some wars are best won by refusing to fight. In a world addicted to noise, his silence is power. His disappearance is the consequence. And for those who once tried to manipulate him, that quiet void is often the loudest lesson they'll ever learn. Number two, he weaponizes distance. You try to hurt him, he disappears. Not because he's scared, but because he understands one powerful truth. Silence is the most devastating response to manipulation. This man, often referred to in psychology as emotionally self-regulating, or in pop culture as a Sigma male, doesn't play the typical emotional tug-of-war. When others try to provoke, guilt-trip, or bait him into chaos, he doesn't argue, explode, or beg. He vanishes. Not as an act of escape, but as a calculated withdrawal. Why? Because manipulators feed on reactions. They thrive on drama, emotional energy, and attention. Psychologists refer to this as narcissistic supply, where manipulators derive validation from their ability to control and evoke responses. By giving them nothing, no texts, no explanations, no confrontation, he starves their ego and strips them of power. Silence becomes a weapon, and absence turns into a mirror. That empty space he creates forces the manipulator to sit with themselves, to face their own insecurity and dysfunction without a scapegoat. The quiet echoes louder than any argument could, revealing the futility of their games. It's not passive aggressiveness, it's emotional mastery. It takes tremendous discipline to walk away without needing to be understood or vindicated. In doing so, he reclaims his peace and protects his energy. His silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's a refusal to validate toxicity, and for those who tried to control him, the most painful realization isn't his absence, it's the reflection of their own brokenness left behind in the silence. This is the psychological art of detachment, and it's far more powerful than any confrontation. Number three, he sees the pattern before you act. The Sigma male isn't just watching, he's calculating. Long before you make your move, he's read between the lines, spotted the hesitation in your voice, tracked the inconsistencies in your behavior, and timed your sudden interest with surgical precision. You might think you're being subtle, but to a Sigma, human behavior is a map, and he's memorized every route people tend to take, especially the ones that lead to manipulation, betrayal, or control. While most people respond reactively, the Sigma is proactive, always 10 steps ahead. It's not about paranoia, it's about pattern recognition, a skill deeply tied to emotional intelligence and observational mastery. Studies in behavioral psychology confirm that highly perceptive individuals often notice micro-expressions and subtle shifts in tone and posture, clues that betray true intentions. The Sigma male uses these cues like chess pieces, anticipating your next move before you even make it. This is what makes him so elusive and hard to fool. By the time you think you've gained his trust, he's already created distance, set boundaries, or entirely removed your influence from his world. There's no dramatic exit, no confrontation, just a silent repositioning of the board while you're still playing checkers. That's the unnerving power of the Sigma. He doesn't wait to be betrayed, he predicts it, prepares for it, and makes sure it never lands. And when you realize you've been locked out, you won't hear a door slam or see a message left behind. You'll just notice his absence, and the void will be deafening. So the next time you think you're outsmarting a Sigma, remember, he's not reacting to your moves, he's already moved beyond them. Number 4. You reveal more about yourself than you harm him. Every attempt to hurt a Sigma male is less of an attack and more of a confession, an unintentional revelation of the attacker's own insecurity, control issues, and emotional dependency. The Sigma operates on a different frequency than most people. He's not wired to seek validation or engage in emotional tug-of-wars, so when someone lashes out at him, whether through manipulation, gossip, or passive aggression, it's rarely about him, it's about them. It's a spotlight on their own inner chaos. They crave a reaction because it validates their presence, their power, and their control. But the Sigma doesn't give them that luxury. He doesn't retaliate, doesn't chase explanations, and certainly doesn't entertain drama. Instead, he stands still, calm, detached, and unbothered. This psychological stillness acts like a mirror. The more you try to provoke him, the more your own issues surface. That silence, it's not weakness, it's strategic. Psychology backs this up. Studies on emotional intelligence and self-regulation show that those who remain non-reactive in tense situations often have higher cognitive control and inner stability. Sigmas use this silence as a weapon not to attack, but to reflect. He knows that overreaction is often the tool of the weak, and so he lets others reveal themselves while he remains grounded. His power lies in his refusal to be pulled into emotional chaos. When someone's attempt to wound him fails, it backfires. They're left exposed, vulnerable, and perhaps for the first time, forced to face their own shadows. The Sigma doesn't need revenge. Your weakness does the work for him. In a world where attention is currency, ignoring someone is the most brutal form of power. The Sigma knows this, and he uses it masterfully. Number 5, he's already chosen solitude. You can't isolate someone who chooses isolation. That's the paradox of the Sigma male. The lone wolf who doesn't just endure solitude, he thrives in it. While society often uses silence, exclusion, or public embarrassment to control or manipulate, the Sigma male has already made peace with the quiet. He walks alone not because he's rejected, but because he rejected the need to be accepted. When others try to exile him, thinking they're punishing him, they unknowingly hand him the very conditions he's most dangerous in: solitude, space, and silence. In history and mythology, some of the most powerful figures, like Jesus in the wilderness, Buddha under the Bodhi tree, or even the great Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, found their strength away from the crowd. The Sigma male is cut from the same cloth. When you try to shame him, he doesn't defend himself or seek validation. He simply disappears, slips into the shadows, and becomes untouchable. You can't destroy someone who doesn't cling to image, applause, or attention. That's why attempts to control or manipulate such men often backfire. A man who isn't afraid to be forgotten is immune to emotional blackmail. He draws his power not from popularity or approval, but from clarity, independence, and self-mastery. While most people fear isolation, he turns it into innovation. While others need a tribe, he builds a temple in the wilderness. The Sigma male doesn't resist the game, he walks off the field, and that's what makes him so formidable. Society loses all leverage when it comes up against a man who doesn't need it, because you can't break what you can't hold, and you can't control a man who doesn't fear being alone. Number 6, pain fuels his evolution. The Sigma male doesn't flinch at discomfort, he investigates it. Where most people retreat from pain, he leans in, not because he enjoys suffering, but because he understands what it truly is: information. Pain, whether emotional or physical, is not a punishment. It's a signal, a data point, a message from reality that something needs to be acknowledged, adjusted, or mastered. While others drown in self-pity or lash out to escape discomfort, the Sigma male internalizes it, analyzes it, and turns it into strategy. He's the type of man who, when betrayed or defeated, doesn't scream or beg, he observes. he silently upgrades. Psychologically, this trait aligns with a concept known as post-traumatic growth, where instead of being crushed by adversity, individuals become more resilient, insightful, and capable because of it. The Sigma doesn't just survive setbacks, he weaponizes them. Every heartbreak sharpens his emotional discernment, every failure improves his calibration, every disappointment strengthens his solitude, and the most fascinating part, the world rarely sees the transformation happening. That's the mystery of the Sigma. He doesn't broadcast his evolution. You thought you wounded him, but you only gave him raw material for his rebirth. He becomes more efficient, more composed, and more elusive. It's like trying to break a sword by throwing it into fire, only to watch it come out reforged, stronger than before. In a world obsessed with external validation, the Sigma male is driven by internal metrics. He measures progress by growth, not applause. And so discomfort is no longer a threat. It's a forge. You didn't break him. You just made him more dangerous, more disciplined, and infinitely harder to reach. Because to the Sigma, every scar is just another upgrade in his silent evolution. Number 7, he builds in silence. While you're busy celebrating a minor victory, taking selfies, sharing updates, and enjoying the temporary spotlight, the Sigma male is quietly building an empire. There are no drum rolls, no public declarations, no flashy previews of what's to come. Instead, he operates like a silent architect, focused, disciplined, and determined. His energy isn't wasted on proving anything to the world, it's poured entirely into the mission. This type of mindset echoes the psychological concept of delayed gratification, made famous by the Stanford marshmallow experiment, which proved that those who wait for a greater reward often succeed more in life. The Sigma male embodies this perfectly. He doesn't need applause, he needs results. While others crave validation, he craves mastery. He studies when others are sleeping, he trains when others are partying, and he plans 5 steps ahead while others are celebrating step 1. There's something deeply powerful about a man who moves in silence, because it creates unpredictability, a trait often linked to strategic minds throughout history, from Sun Tzu to Nikola Tesla. And by the time the world finally notices what he's built, it's already too late. You've been outpaced, outclassed, and perhaps most painful of all, forgotten. That's the Sigma's quiet revenge. Not in confrontation, but in evolution. He turns rejection into rocket fuel, doubt into direction, and setbacks into stepping stones. While others broadcast their hustle, he just hustles. And when his moment comes, he doesn't need to say, "I told you so." His results speak for themselves. Number 8, he doesn't play social games, he outgrows them. You think you're competing, but the Sigma male, he's not even in the arena. While others scramble for recognition, validation, and dominance in the social hierarchy, the Sigma operates on an entirely different frequency, one that doesn't need an audience. He's not trying to win a popularity contest. He's pursuing something far more valuable, freedom. Freedom from societal expectations, freedom from peer pressure, and freedom from the exhausting cycle of performance and approval. In a world obsessed with likes, shares, and fleeting status, the Sigma is practically immune. That's not arrogance, it's clarity. Studies in social psychology suggest that humans are naturally wired for group belonging and status-seeking behavior. But Sigmas deviate from this script. They're often introverted, highly introspective, and driven by intrinsic goals. They value autonomy over attention and purpose over popularity. When others are busy aligning with trends to gain influence, the Sigma leans deeper into his craft, developing rare skills, mastering silence, and building a life that doesn't require applause to feel fulfilled. So when the spotlight dims and social power inevitably shifts, many find themselves scrambling for relevance. But the Sigma, he thrives in the shadows. His self-sufficiency, built in solitude and reinforced through independence, only grows stronger. The game everyone else is playing doesn't interest him because he's building his own world, one brick of discipline and self-awareness at a time. And while the crowd fights for trophies that tarnish, the Sigma forges a legacy that endures. Number 9, he turns the cut into a scar that strengthens. Every betrayal, every act of deception is logged, not for vengeance, but for wisdom. For the Sigma male, pain is not a prison, but a professor. Rather than internalize betrayal as shame or fuel for revenge, he treats it like intelligence, deconstructing what went wrong, where trust was misplaced, and which red flags he missed. It's a psychological autopsy, not a pity party. This process mirrors how the brain, through neuroplasticity, rewires itself after trauma, strengthening emotional circuits through analysis and adaptation. Solitude enhances this further, allowing the Sigma to refine his instincts and elevate his pattern recognition, skills often tied to high emotional intelligence and self-awareness. So when betrayal reappears in a new disguise, he's already mapped its tactics. Those who tried to break him only ended up fine-tuning his defenses. His growth is quiet but seismic. The lesson is absorbed, the upgrade is complete, and the gate is locked. He doesn't get bitter, he gets better. Number 10. Your influence diminishes the moment he sees through you. Once the Sigma male sees your true intention, especially if it's rooted in manipulation, control, or hidden agendas, something irreversible happens. It's not a loud argument or dramatic exit. It's quiet, clean, absolute. His perception of you changes in an instant, and with it, your influence over him vanishes. The Sigma doesn't waste time trying to fix people who played him. Instead, he withdraws, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. He doesn't block you to prove a point. He simply stops listening, stops trusting, stops caring. And that subtle shift is more powerful than rage. You're no longer someone he's trying to build with. You become someone he forgets. It's not driven by hate or resentment. It's driven by clarity, like a chess master who suddenly sees the entire board. He steps back from the game, refusing to be a pawn. This is the hallmark of Sigma psychology, independence and discernment. A study published in the shows that emotionally detached individuals often make sharper, more rational decisions when faced with betrayal. The Sigma embodies that. He doesn't explode, he evaporates. And in doing so, he teaches a powerful lesson. Once trust is broken, presence becomes absence. And that absence is louder than words. Number 11, he's not seeking revenge. He's seeking mastery. You want to fight? He wants growth. While others waste energy plotting sabotage and stirring conflict, the Sigma male is focused on self-mastery. He's not interested in petty battles or ego-driven drama. His mind is fixed on leveling up. While you're scheming to distract him, he's deep in books, honing his craft, building skills that compound over time. Psychologists call this the growth mindset, the belief that abilities can be developed through dedication and effort. When the dust finally settles, it becomes clear. You were never competition. You were background noise. And he's already 3 chapters ahead in the book you never opened. Number 12, the world remembers the one who walked alone. The Sigma leaves a mark without needing a stage because his power lies not in performance but in presence. You may try to hurt him now, mock his silence, or underestimate his distance, but time has a strange way of honoring those who stand firm. While others chase applause, the Sigma builds in shadows, guided by discipline and inner resolve. He doesn't fold under pressure, he adapts, refines, and returns stronger. Historians don't always remember the loudest. They remember those who stood for something, and that's the Sigma's legacy, not fame, but a life crafted by principle, integrity, and unshakable focus. Trying to hurt a Sigma male isn't just ineffective, it becomes a lesson in futility. While others seek validation, Sigmas draw power from within, molded by isolation and sharpened through experience. You can't break a man who refuses to play by society's scripted rules. He thrives in silence, grows through setbacks, and finds clarity in chaos. Your attempt to wound him only exposes your own weakness. The Sigma doesn't react. He evolves. He doesn't fight for attention. He commands respect without demanding it. In the end, you'll remember the moment not because he fell, but because he didn't. This is the Sigma path. This is Brain Boosters.